Without any further ado, let's check up with the man who is pumping out articles today faster than I can read them, and that is Sam Amico from Amico Hoops and Hoops Wire. Sammy, welcome to the show. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Sam. And if you read just one, I'll be happy.
I've read 3 already today. And I've had to
myself.
Dave, I've had to speed read a little because every time, boom, there's another one. Boom, there's another one. But great stuff. So I hit the jackpot of getting you on the show today. So before we get into some of your writings today, Cavaliers are finally going to get back on the floor tomorrow night, and it looks like, hopefully, maybe Evan Mobley and Dean Wade will be ready to go.
That's what it's sounding like. They're on track to return. Could potentially be, in a minutes restriction type of deal. But with as deep as they've become, a minutes restriction probably isn't going to be that much different than the regular thing. So, listen, that's obviously good news for a team that is the hottest team in the NBA right now, having won 10 of 11, 3 straight since the James Harden acquisition. And just playing some of their best basketball right now, post All-Star break, is when you need to do it.
No kidding. We're in the sprint now. I think, 27 games until we get to the end of the regular season. We haven't had a chance to talk here for a bit, so I got to kind of circle back a little bit and get your initial reactions to the James Harden trade and your thoughts on what he has looked like in a wine and gold uniform since he's come to town.
Yeah, I mean, before that trade, Sam, I probably would have pegged them as potentially another second-round exit.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that even when they were playing better, before those trades, they still seemed a little clunky, a little uneven, and a little like, well, this team could fall apart at any minute. Now he gives them not only stability in the locker room, and I think Dennis Schroeder does too, but in the huddles and obviously on the court, he brings a totally different dynamic in that they have a big guard now that if you want to double team him, he's going to find the open man, and he's been just fine with that through the first 3 games. I mean, last game took 4 shots and really, is very underrated when it comes to defense. People always say he can defend when he wants to, and that's very true, particularly in the low post, on the low blocks. So he brings all the elements, I think, that they may have been lacking in sense of a real leader, in terms of a guy who's been around, seen everything, and is playing with a chip on his shoulder at this age, having never been to the finals. So, really the way he unlocks everybody else too, particularly the big guys, Jared Allen. I think we'll see that with Evan Mobley. That's kind of his MO, is unlocking bigs, but he's been doing it with everybody else too. I mean, Sam Merrill went nuts last game, and a lot of that is because Harden is finding the open guy every time he gets double teamed.
Sam, he has been, I mean, we get infatuated with his, points per game average. He's almost 9 assists a game. And, Jared Allen has turned into a new person. If James Harden's effect can continue on a guy like Evan Mobley, look out.
Yeah, that's right. And I think a lot of people, forget, look, what he's done for Jared Allen has been pretty impressive, right? And Jarrett was playing well before that. He had that 40-point game in Portland before the James Harden trade. So I think that, he has a history of getting big men, not just the ball, but where they want it, where they need it, easy baskets for them. And yeah, I mean, even though Jarrett had that 40-point game, he just looks so much more efficient with James Harden because he's getting the ball in good spots. His last game, Jared Allen went 8-8 from the field, and I think that we see somebody like Evan Mobley, who has a higher upside than Jared Allen offensively. That's James Harden. It's always been his strength. Even in the days when he was considered a guy who was going to go out and score 40 and maybe only get 5 or 6 assists, he's still able to find big guys down near the hoop pretty easily because he can see over the defense.
Sam Amico is our guest. Check him out at HoopsWire, at Amico Hoops on all of your favorite social media platforms. Great stuff coming out is 19 minutes ago. Great story up there on LeBron, and we'll get into that here in a minute. This may be a tough question to answer, but I'm curious. Lots been written and said about James Harden. He's 36 years old. Things seem to go sideways with him after a certain amount of time within an organization. So far, so good with James, doing the right thing, saying the right thing. Sammy, is this a short fix for the Cavs? Will he be here next year, the year after? How do you think this will all play out? I know a lot goes into this, and maybe in a championship could be a part of it. How long do you think he sticks around?
Yeah, well, it's probably not going to be too long, given that, like you just said, he's 36 years old. But the contract situation, is he going to get another 3 years after this year from the Cavs? I don't know. I think so much of that is going to be determined on how this plays out. Whether if they get to the finals, then you're having a different conversation about his contract. If they don't get out of the second round, which I would find hard to believe unless something goes terribly awry, but if that happens, then maybe he just ends up picking up his option. I think the sense I'm getting is almost for certain, regardless of how this goes, he'll be back next season.
Okay.
So I do think this is the rest of this season and next season deal. Beyond that, you kind of got to figure things out. I think this summer, depending on how things play out, and I think that both sides are there. They're like, well, let's see how it goes, and then we'll talk after the season. So, do foresee it being, it probably can't be more than a 2 or 3 year partnership, but
yeah,
I foresee it potentially playing out that long.
Interesting. I think that's kind of where the sweet spot would be too. I mean, like 36 in the NBA, I guess, to some is not old. I mean, certainly there's a young man out in Los Angeles turning back the father time every time he puts on his sneakers. But, the way James plays and, some of it, it's a lot of ISO. Other times he moves the ball around. I mean, how many good years do you think he has left in him, Sammy?
I think the great thing for James Harden is he's not like a remarkable athlete, so he's kind of slower and more methodical. He's got a quick first step, which helps him a lot. And that, age is going to probably impact that, but he just understands how to play. And what we've seen with the Cavs, and I saw this earlier this year when I saw him a couple times with the Clippers, he's been staying within himself. He's not been trying to do too much and force too much. And really, when I watched him with the Clippers earlier this year, I thought, boy, he keeps feeding Zubac, their center, their former center, repeatedly. The guy's missing layups, he's missed dunks, he's shooting air balls, and Hart just kept giving him the ball. I think he understands where he is in his career, which is, listen, I'm a secondary option at this point, and if he can play like that, there's going to be nights where he has 4 shots like he did against the Wizards and racks up 11 assists. There's going to be nights where they need him to score 35, and he's certainly capable of doing that. So I guess my point, Sam, is he's never been one of those eye-popping athletes, right? He's just been a guy who understands the game and how to get himself shots. And he does so many things well, draw foul, and he doesn't miss free throws. I said that the other night against the Wizards, and he missed one. But he's a 91% career shooter from the line, and that's invaluable and very underrated because the Cavs have been kind of iffy from the line. So I think that those things, those little intangibles that people overlook, are things that are really going to make James Harden a success in Cleveland.
I would 100% agree. Sam Amico is our guest, Amico Hoops and HoopsWire. Check them out on the social media plateau. The Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder, Sam, I like these two. I think they bring a little bit of zip, a little chip, a little attitude. I couldn't imagine a twosome coming in to the Cavaliers at this point in the year better than these two guys. Agree, disagree, and what's your take on their game and the style and what they bring to Cleveland?
Yeah, absolutely agree. First of all, people thought I was crazy, but just being in the locker room, I thought, man, this team misses George Niang and or Tristan Thompson because they were two guys who brought an attitude and an edge to the locker room. George Niang would call guys out if they weren't performing. George Niang called Donovan Mitchell out once and said, you need to start passing the ball more. And Donovan Mitchell would say, no, you're right. and this is last season, Donovan Mitchell started passing him.
Yeah,
so, you know, they didn't have that voice. They didn't have the Tristan Thompson leadership. Dennis Schroeder brings that right away. You know, forget what he can bring on the court because he's contributing more than Yang or Tristan Thompson did. But in the locker room, he's a guy that brings that edge, brings that fierceness, brings that chip that they were missing, I thought, from last season. And it kind of explained why this season was kind of so uneven. On the floor, both of those guys, Schroeder and Ellis, both bring an edge, some toughness. And, you know, to me, Keon Ellis looks like what the Cavs were hoping Isaac Okoro would be. And he's willing to do it in limited minutes at this point. So just a very, very underrated pickup, but, you know, trade because DeAndre Hunter was kind of the guy, one of the guys that you would look at on the Cavs and say he's too soft.
Yeah.
They went out and got two guys for him that are the opposite of that. And look, Dennis Schroeder is a journeyman, but at the same time, he's a guy who he serves his purpose. You look at his numbers everywhere he's been in his last 8 or 9 stops. His numbers have been better. So he's one of those ultimate guys that it's like he can be a starter. If your starter gets hurt, you're going to lose much. But his best role is off the bench, and he plays that role very, very well.
I agree. I think he's a perfect complement to a lot of guys on our team, and he'll say a little something to them if they're not pulling their weight. And I think we needed that. I think we've got it with him. Sammy, this no matter what happens this year, if the Cavaliers go to the NBA Finals, if they just come short, if they win a championship, no matter what happens this summer, I think is going to be pretty wild. And I'm referencing the article that just come up about 22 minutes ago. LeBron James, the Cavs, in 99% if the price is right, according to some NBA insiders. It certainly looks by his actions, his talking on podcast, it looks like LeBron certainly would like to come back and finish things up here, Sam. If so, how would that happen financially, and do you think it might eventually come to pass?
I think there's a shot, you know, for the reason you mentioned. I don't know that the Lakers, they're kind of saying the right thing, but I think that they're ready to go a different path.
Yep.
You know, when it comes to Luka Doncic and even guys like Austin Reeves and kind of their youth movement, they definitely want to build that team around Luka. And that's kind of hard to do with LeBron in town, and I don't know that the Lakers are really true blue contenders in the West as much as everybody talks about. So I think there's that element where it's going to be very difficult for him to go back to the Lakers. That's number one. Number two, that's going to mean he's a free agent, and he's probably, I would think, next year going to be in his last NBA season.
Okay.
So what would make the most sense if the Lakers don't want you back? Where would your farewell tour be? Not to mention that, but you also have a team that looks like a true contender in the Cavs.
Yep.
So, you know, all of those pieces put together would make a return seem very just a good fit. And he would be a fit on the court because he can still get downhill. He can still move the ball. He'd be playing next to Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Evan Mobley. You know, I think all of those things are something that in my mind, without question, he would have to consider. It's, do you want to play for the veteran minimum or close to the veteran minimum? It's going to be very interesting. Also, do the Cavs extend Donovan Mitchell this summer before all of that LeBron stuff?
Right.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Sam. It's going to be a very interesting summer. But I do think that, there's a good shot, or at least a shot that LeBron would be back, because it would make not only, it would make good basketball sense, but it would also be such a great story, and nobody loves those more than LeBron James.
No question about it. Well, I'll tell you what, Sammy, if I had to pick a career for 1 year, I would go right to the Cavs in the summer and say, hey, I'll be willing to sell season ticket packages for you, and you can cut my revenue sharing in half. I'll still go out there and I'll make buku bucks, because I think that is going to be, if it all comes to pass, and I'm not saying it will, but I'm telling you, that would be the star power on any given night. The Cavaliers would hit the floor in Cleveland or in an NBA road arena would be out of this world. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the star power?
Yeah, I can, Sam, because as the publisher of HoopsWire.com, my dream is that LeBron does come back, because the page views all of a sudden go through the roof. But, I've seen it. We saw it before with LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love. And now, if he were to come back, you're talking about two of the 75 greatest players in NBA history, according to the league, LeBron James and James Harden sharing the floor, two guys who already, draw tickets as individuals, and putting them on the same team, on the same court, with the style of basketball they play, which is keep the ball moving, can score if you need us to. And, hey, by the way, you have a guy who's 27, 28 years old, and Donovan Mitchell, who can take anybody one-on-one anytime he wants. So I tell you what, as somebody who works in Cleveland, covers the NBA primarily out of Cleveland, I think it would be great. The one game LeBron came back this year with the Lakers, there was just a different vibe, a different atmosphere.
Yep.
And I saw it when he was here last time, and it's not just great for the organization and the fan base. It's good for the city. So I think that, the star power would only benefit not only the Cavs, but the NBA as a whole.
I agree. Sam, I got about 60 seconds. I think we got 27 games to go. The schedule, I think, is kind of favorable. The Cavs are going to be playing a lot of teams that are already kind of in tank mode. I know Adam Silver doesn't want to hear that word, but how many? What do you think win total for this year? How many do you think that they get to by the time it's all said and done?
Well, 27 games. I would think that, listen, if they stay healthy and don't get their playoff position locked in at some point where they're resting guys for the final 3 games, and I don't expect that to be the case. I expect this to be a fight to the finish for seeding at least 2 through 5. So I could, out of those 27 games, I could definitely see them winning 20.
Me too.
21.
Me too.
Just the way they're playing, they also have a very favorable schedule. I think that they have more games against quote unquote tanking teams than anybody else. And by that, I mean the bottom 10 teams in the NBA record wise.
Yep.
The Cavs have more games against those than any other team in the NBA. They got some toughies in there too. I mean, they're going to Charlotte, which is, those guys are no joke. They've won 9 of 10.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Oklahoma City Sunday. So after this Nets game, it might toughen up a little bit, but I think we're in agreement, Sam. They could win 20, 21 games if everybody stays healthy and they continue to play like they have been the last, say, 2 weeks.
Shaping up to be a fantastic couple of months coming up. Sam Amico, Hoops Wire, and Amico Hoops. Check him out all over social media, getting it done. Sam, always a pleasure to catch up. We'll ring your doorbell again here down the road. Thanks for coming on, pal.
All right, Sam. Thanks for having me. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it. Sam Amico. Check him out. Hoops Wire and AmicoHoops.com.